Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm the Game Master. I cover everything Pathfinder 2nd Edition, including in-depth adventure path reviews, guides for players, and tips on how to hit the elite template on your GMing. I'm also a full-time professional Game Master, so if you'd like to play a game with me, check me out on startplaying.com, link below. Today it's time to get educated about the library, and now we're getting into the meat of things. As always, this review will be full of spoilers, so watch out for that. And please drop me any ideas you may have about what you'd like to see for future videos, whether it's in the comments here or over my Discord channel. You can find a link to that one down in the description as well. The library at one time focused as a research center for Belcora, but in the centuries since her death, it's become infested by a pack of ghouls. Ghouls are an interesting group of creatures to roleplay if you can find an opportunity. They're defined by two motivations: their need to seek out knowledge and secrets, and their relentless hunger for flesh. These two contrasts should dictate how you roleplay them, if your players will give you a chance. I can't really blame them if they don't, though, because sooner or later it will resort to combat 9 times out of 10. I always take the rooms in the order in which they are listed, starting with C1, the visitor's reading room. Neither one of my parties had much time for Augriel, the poor Morlock ghoul that lurks in this otherwise quiet section of the library. He does have a bit of info, though, about the layout of the library, and if you really want to give your PC some extra knowledge about something, this is a good place to do it. He doesn't know about the secret door to the south, though, so make sure you take note of that. The haunted reading room is another clue into Otari's flight downstairs after he was injured in the fight with Belcora in the Rose Guard about 500 years ago. The trail leads a winding course and eventually drops the party into another tough fight. Things like this are why my party had some trust issues with them, but hopefully they don't sprint after him too quickly, opening up doors all willy-nilly. If they do, it's going to be a real learning experience. The haunt in the reading room isn't really that big of a deal, but the room after it has some potential for hilarity, mostly if you're a game master. These two secret doors open to 2 more teleportation circles, and soon enough the party is going to have the means to actually activate them. The northern circle isn't usable anymore because it leads upstairs to the teleportation circle that was disabled, but the southern one is still able to be activated, and it leads down a level and into a cage that's guarded by a super nice lady who definitely isn't a really tough fight that they can look forward to later. The teleportation circle is only big enough for 1 PC, so I think it would take a somewhat reckless party to teleport somebody off into the unknown, but you never know. It's going to be a bit tough on you and the players if that happens, though. It's never great when the party gets split, because then you're stuck with a person who's like locked out of the session until they get back. And so what I like to do is I like to give them maybe an NPC to play. Consider them getting an NPC to pilot if that happens. Currently the party is level 3, so you could like weaken Carmen and give them like a level 5, which is it would be if he was weakened. Or have Rin just deal with it in her claustrophobia, weaken her, and then that would be a level 4 NPC. You can also just sub out their stat blocks for a more appropriate NPC block, but the NPC blocks aren't going to be as exciting as a real player character sheet. So work with your player and see if they want to come up with something real quick. Maybe they could create a stat block for an NPC that lives there in town. Just work it out with the player if this happens. Hopefully, in all seriousness, hopefully it doesn't. The Mist Stalker in the guard room might be the first encounter that they run into if they come down the stairs from B5. If not, it could be Corlock, the devil in C8. Corlock is a pretty strong creature at this level. The beard has a mapless attack. He has reactive strikes. He can reposition on a hit with his glaive at will. He can cause disease, bad bleed effects. He's got a lot going on. He does have a side quest though, so if things start getting crazy, hopefully he can throw this at them, and things may not have to resort to violence right away. He's looking for his contract to see if he can get out of here, because he's very sick of this current posting here in Belcora's dungeon. And if the party agrees, they can find the contract over in C37, but they are going to have to work pretty hard to get it. The main library is going to be their first run-in with ghouls, most likely here on this level. There's a side quest about Morley Bint who's looking for his valuable books, but it probably won't get too far before things here turn into a fight. One of the main things that the party is going to be dealing with here is ghoul fever. The worst part about this disease is that the PC will be receiving only half healing if they've progressed as far as stage 2. But do remember that as opposed to a poison, keep in mind the multiple exposure rules on page 430. That means that diseases don't progress down the stages with multiple exposures the same way that a poison would. Paralysis has the incapacitation trait, so I didn't really have that work too often, but the consume flesh ability, remember this, the consume flesh ability does work on other ghouls as the PCs defeat them. So, waste not, want not, that's the ghoul's life. Jarell, the ghost in C13, felt like I could have used a little bit more detail with how to resolve her story. She drank a bottle of arsenic rather than join the rest of the librarians in their evil schemes in the years after they were trapped on this level after the fight with the Rose Guard upstairs. Ghosts usually have a piece of unfinished business, so what I told the party was that her last wish was to see the sun for one last time. If they take her bones outside and expose them to the sunlight, she will be released from her torment and she can move on to Pharasma and her reward or punishment, whatever kind of person she was when she was alive, I guess. It's a way to give the party something, a good deed to do. It's something to feel nice about, and that they've made a difference in this otherwise very chaotic and dark place. C15 is a pretty standard encounter, but it does bring something to mind that I really like about this campaign. The outline of the room is in the footprint of the gauntlet above, so you never forget the lighthouse. This and the constant reminders of Belcora as you're traveling down accomplish something that sadly many fantasy TTRPGs fail to do. Make the final boss a part of the story. Now, so often, the BBEG is somebody that the party never sees, barely hears about, and basically does nothing that they know about until the very end of the campaign. Personally, I hate that. If I know that you don't want to expose the players to the BBEG too early because they might luck into it and kill him somehow, or you got to justify why the bad guy wouldn't kill them, and there's got to be ways around it though. And whether it's being like mind control pawns, spies, illusions, the PCs should be at the very least just aware of who it is that they're fighting. Outlaws of Alkenstar, Stolen Fate, Bloodlords, Kingmaker, and others do not do a good job of this. And I always try to find ways to fix that. And I recommend that you do too. The Scrivener's Workshop is a pretty standard encounter, but if you're like me, make sure you go into detail about the skin canvases that this guy has hung up on to display his artwork and his writings. The ghoul here is a tattoo artist, and he likes to draw on his food before he eats it. I would have a larger piece hung up with a depiction of Belcora, again, reminding everyone about Belcora, and maybe come up with some disturbing writing or pictures that he's drawn on these pieces of skin that he has hung up all over the room. This will give the players something creepy to read after the fight is over. And this place is already a creepy room and a creepy level. So if your party can handle it, just be creative with what you put on here so your party has something interesting to do after the fight's done. C24 is a shrine of sorts, a decaying mass of flesh that used to be a gibbering mouther. There's nothing too crazy here, aside from everything I just said, but if you enjoy grossing out your players, like I do, again, if you think they can handle it, I know that the description says that they are shocked if the party attacks the remains of the gibbering mouther, but given that it's dead, that's probably not too likely. But if you want, you could make it a target for their consume flesh ability and have them whispering something gross like, your flesh is mine, my lord. Give me sustenance. Some kind of grossness. Yeah, because I find in my personal life that sort of talk really creeps people out. Whenever I'm eating a sandwich and declare it my lord, people usually think that I'm weird and walk away from me quickly. I lead a very sad life. The Siege Castle History room contains a very tough fight with a wood golem. Golem saw a lot of changes with the remaster, and as I mentioned before, I think this is for the best. Generally, they were not very popular fights in my experience in their old form. There's no like wood golem remastered though, so feel free to switch this out with a different level 6 creature if you want to keep the fight as a severe encounter. In my experience, though, severe encounters that are severe because of one very tough enemy are definitely harder than severe encounters that have where it's a little bit closer to the number of PCs that you have. You could switch it out, and you could have a couple like Karen Whites or a couple of web lurkers and a Tixatog. This then foreshadow things with, saying there's a lot of like spider webs before they open the door, just to give them kind of like a warning about it. The boss fight in this level is on C33, the restricted collection. It does feel a little bit weird that the leader of the ghouls is in the next room over, right up here. But that she doesn't respond to the battle and that she's only a medium encounter by herself. What I would do is I would delete the regular ghouls and keep the cultist, and then move the leader from C34 to C33. So what did you put in C34, which is the room directly north with this sort of shrine flesh golem thing that they've been working on? Well, near the end of the campaign, if you've read ahead, you'll know that Belcora herself attacks the party several times and then retreats after a couple of rounds. What you could do is do something similar here, but say that she's been weakened because of the energy it takes to project herself so far ahead. You could do something, you could use like the Ghost Mage stat block to represent her in her weakened form, as it just takes a lot of energy for her to maintain this so far up into the gauntlet. I would use the same tactics that it recommends once you get farther down below. Just having her in there for like a couple of rounds, and then you describe her as like flickering in and out of existence, and then she disappears after a couple of rounds of combat. Just because, like, even the Ghost Mage, that's like a 10th level enemy and would TPK your party. So you're not trying to do that. You're just trying to frighten them. Describe her, as flickering in and out of existence, sort of foreshadowing she may not be here for long. That should get the point across. Just hit him really hard a couple of times and then have her bamf out. Behind the secret door is the secure collection. It has a lot of interesting stuff in it, including the ritual needed in order to activate the teleportation portals. The Whispering Reeds went unused in my game because it has some really nasty side effects, but it should clue them into the fact that Nimbleoth is a thing that exists, and you can really play into that if you're trying to up the eldritch horror vibes that you could in this campaign. Chandriu, I think is how you say her name. Chandriu, sure, why not? The librarian in the scriptorium is an opportunity for some role play and sneakiness for your PCs. This is kind of a puzzle encounter. She demands that they sit and do their work transcribing some of the old books. Ghosts are oftentimes stuck in the past, and she doesn't really realize that she's dead, and she thinks the PCs are just some students here to do their work. If they play along, they might get a chance to see her travel through this wall and into the room on the other side. This will give them a hint that there's something back or that they should be investigating. And I let them be creative here with how they do this. My party, try to distract her and then lead her out of the room a little bit, just so another one of them could sneak into the room and find what was in there. She is a really tough fight. Poltergeist has a lot of attacks. So the first time that they went in here, both my parties, they ended up getting into a fight and really got beat down. Also, In here you can find Volok's, a portrait of Volok. Now, this portrait of Volok will come in handy once they meet Volok himself. And I think this is, if they've talked to Borbo, they'll know that they can use this to weaken him later. Neither one of my parties clued into that, but maybe yours will. This tunnel leads back to Otari, under the fishery, and will lead to tons of fun for people in the beginner box who are feeling like doing some exploring, because it does lead right back underneath there. Towards the east tunnels, over here, you'll find a gibbering mouther. Now, I have very mixed feelings at times about Paizo's artwork, but look at this thing. It is a work of art. Tell me that you've never felt like this after a night's drinking. The gibbering mouther is like an entire mood. This right here is a state of mind that will teach you a lot about yourself. You'll learn things. They won't be things that you want to know, but you'll learn them. And that's it. All the major encounters for level 3 of the Abomination Vaults. I'll be back with another installment of this, so stay tuned for that and the other videos that I have coming soon. If you like what you saw and you want to join a campaign with me, feel free to look me up over at startplaying.com and join me on Discord too. As always, please hit that like button, and if you've ever found yourself in a gibbering mouther state of mind, please tell me all about it in the comments below. I'll see you next time. This has been the Game Master.